I was born.
No, just a minute.
Okay.
This is Damian Macy, representing Friends of the Marshall Public Library Oral History Project. And today we're fortunate to have with us a local person from Marshall area. Her name was Mackie at one time, but now it is Alice Schroeder. So with that, Alice,
Okay, I was born in Terre Haute, Indiana, the hospital. My parents were Arnold and Mary Mackey. My brothers are Joe Mackey, Ken Mackey, John Mackey, Steve Mackey, and David Lynn Mackey. And I had a sister named Sue Mackey. I've always lived in Marshall. My father grew up close to where I grew up. He went to school in Marshall. My mom grew up and went to school in Martinsville, Illinois.
Alice, you lived in the country rather than in town?
Oh yeah, we were 14, 15 miles away from Marshall, but we went to school in Marshall. We were just inside the Marshall School District. We were closer to West Union, and at the time there was a grade school in West Union, and then if we had gone there we would have gone to Hudsonville. But we were in the Marshall School District, so we all came to school in Marshall.
Did you have school buses at that time?
Yeah, we did. Well, when my older brothers and sister first started school, there was a country school just about a quarter mile away from us, and they walked to school there. But then I don't know when it happened, we all started getting bused into Marshall. So that's where I always went. And they started, I don't know, grade school at some age when they started to Marshall.
What building did you come into at that age?
Well, I went to South School.
Oh.
I think, I'm not for sure about the older brothers and sisters, when South School was built and when they started going there. I know the old South School was there first. And so when they started, they probably started in that building. Oh, yeah, probably that building. Because North School is more for town kids, right. I think. And so that's where I went to school.
Do you remember your teachers and all?
Oh, yeah, I remember all my teachers. Mrs. Claypool was my kindergarten. Miss Brown was my first grade teacher. Mrs. Arbuckle was my second grade teacher. Let's see, I said I knew them all. Third grade, I think, was Mrs. Kyle, and fourth grade was Mrs. Shade, and fifth grade was Mrs. Heck, and sixth grade was, in fifth and sixth grades, the classes kind of got divided, so we all had about 4 different teachers. I don't remember who my homeroom was.
Now, I know at that time they were kind of changing with the buses and all, and changing schools. And was there a cafeteria or a food
Yeah, there was a
service?
cafeteria. Well, now some years there was a cafeteria, and I don't remember which years, and some years there wasn't. But I almost always took my lunch. I always had a lunch bucket.
Mom fixed you a good dinner.
Yeah, well, yeah, what I liked. And like I say, I don't remember, but it seems like there was a time when there was not a cafeteria at South School. But I don't remember for sure when that was. Sometime when I was there. But usually there was, I think.
Then you went to that school up here on the corner. It's the high school, right?
Yeah, well, from 6th grade we went to junior high. The junior high's out behind the high school, and that's where I went.
Did you have a favorite subject that you liked?
Not particularly. I mean, not really. No, it was all about the same, I guess. I liked to play outside at recess, of course. Some things were easier than others. I liked reading and didn't care for math. But
Well, how about the opposite? Was there a particular subject that you just didn't like?
unless it was math,
Understandable.
yeah. So, let's see. I wasn't in a neighborhood. We lived out in the country about, like I said, 14, 15 miles from Marshall. The closest building was the Brick United Methodist Church, which is where we all went. There was a neighbors kind of across the field, and they were closest, and I remember walking or riding the bike over to their house and visiting with them sometimes. And then the family closest had kids our age, was a little bit farther away, and sometimes we'd ride our bikes back and forth, or would ride our horses back and forth. I had a real good friend growing up that their family had horses, and I always liked horses. And we had a couple different times had horses. So in the summertime, we'd ride horses a lot. And that was always just kind of around in the area.
Now, comparing that to today, what would you say would be the difference between, you mentioned going to neighbors and all. Seems like people don't socialize much anymore with their neighbors.
Well, I don't know that I'd call it socializing. It was just getting together and playing with this friend of mine that was the closest neighbor that I had. But I remember Mom was very good friends with all the people that went to church down there, which was mostly the people in that area. And Sunday afternoons, I remember they used to drive around and visit people, or sometimes people would come to visit us. I remember my uncles and their wives coming different times, and us going there to visit them.
Does that happen much today, you think?
No, people don't drop in on other people like they used to. And I don't really know why, but they just, don't want to impose, don't want to catch them, and,
I remember the early newspapers, and you probably do too, and there was always a social column. Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so visited someone, and someone from California visited, and that was a big thing. You don't
I don't remember anything like that. I don't think we ever made the social news. Did I have George playtime? I didn't really have a set of chores to do at home, and I never got an allowance. I always thought I ought to get an allowance, but they didn't want to do that. I got what I needed, and sometimes I could talk them into a little treat now and then, but and I didn't have any regular chores. I remember gathering eggs. That was one that I did a lot of. I had, of course, all these older brothers and an older sister, and they did a lot of work outside. The boys helped my dad, and my sister was 10 years old. I mean, the oldest four were 10 and more years older than me. So I don't even remember much about when they were around, because then when they got out of high school, they graduated and went to college. And so I remember I helped a lot in the garden, or it seemed like a lot to me. Mom said that the first 25 years of marriage, she would raise her kids, and the second 25 years, she wanted to raise flowers. So we always had a big garden and about that many flowers, as much as garden. And I remember working a lot in the garden, and I think I know that's where I got to my enjoyment. And
Did your mother do a lot of canning of the product?
Oh yeah, we had a whole closet that was full of things that she canned. We had mostly green beans and tomatoes or tomato juice and peaches and sometimes apples and pickles, and she never canned meat. I know a lot of people canned meat, but we always had a deep freeze out on the back porch, and it was a pretty good sized deep freeze, and she would freeze some stuff because we just liked it better frozen than we did canned. And then we'd get meat from Mom's brother, Uncle Kelly, raised beef in Martinsville. And every so often he would butcher beef, and sometimes we would buy a quarter or a half and then go out to the locker in Martinsville and bring it home and put it in the deep freeze. And we had chickens. Of course, I gathered eggs, but then we also had chickens to eat. So Mom fixed a lot of chickens, and we ate a lot of fresh ones, but sometimes she'd have more and put some in the freezer and freeze the pieces.
Did you ever have to go catch the chickens or pluck them or anything?
I never did that. I would be a vegetarian if I had to do things like that. But and she never killed them. We had a lady that helped my mom with house cleaning and things around inside the house once a week, and she would kill them. And then if she wasn't around, my dad would do it, but then Mom would do everything else.
Not a pleasant job. The farm and the
I
home.
still have vivid images of that in my mind, and like I say, I never did do that, and I don't think my sister ever did either. She was kind of squeamish, like I am, I guess. But they were good. A lot better than I remember when we didn't have chickens anymore, and the first few chickens we bought to fry, just nobody thought they tasted quite the same. But now we're used to it. I kind of forget what good food is.
Okay, interesting.
We went to school, family life. Like I say, my older siblings, there was kind of like two sets. The first four were pretty close together, and then there was a 5-year gap, and then there were 3 more. And my sister and I were 10 years apart. She was in the middle, and I was the youngest. I'm the youngest. And my mom was so busy all the time. And I know she took care of me when I was a baby. But after I got a little bit older, my sister kind of started doing a lot of things like that. And I remember her more than my mom, like brushing and braiding my hair and trimming my fingernails and helping me with my bath. Because she was enough older than me that she could do those sorts of things, and that freed up Mom in the kitchen, or usually in the kitchen. And I don't remember exactly how we did it, but we had a 2-bedroom house, and they had remodeled before I was born and added an addition on the west end of the house. So the old dining room became a bedroom. And that's where my bedroom was most of the time. I still remember, I don't know how old I was, but I still remember sleeping in the crib in my mom and dad's room. And the brother closest to my age slept in a little like daybed type thing in there too. And then my sister and Sue and Steve slept in that old dining room, middle room, which you had to walk through to get from the bathroom into the living room. You had to walk through the bedroom, so it wasn't real private in there. But then the 3 oldest were in the front bedroom. 3 oldest boys, Joe, Ken, and John, were in the front bedroom. And then as we got older, I think, for a while, I think Steve and Sue slept together. But then Steve moved into the big bedroom. And then I think by the time I got bigger, I started sleeping with my sister in that middle room. And my youngest brother by that time, I think the other older brother had gone to college, so they were in the front bedroom. So Mom and Dad finally had a bedroom to themselves, but Sue and I were kind of out in the middle of the house. And then the boys always had the front bedroom.
I've often wondered, some of these early pioneers, it was literally a 1 or 2 bedroom shack, and yet they had large families. I don't know where they all slept.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I remember my dad telling the story that he grew up in a house that must not have been a very substantial house, but it had an upstairs, and that's where he slept.
Like a loft.
Yeah, and I think he said he remembers at times waking up in the morning and there was snow on his blankets. So I can't imagine how cold it must have been, but that was way before my time.
Those days didn't have central heat, and certainly not air conditioning.
No, it wasn't. And we didn't have air conditioning until, I think I was the last one left in the house before we got air conditioning, and that was a window unit. We had a coal furnace in the basement, and some mornings it would be pretty cold, but the first thing Dad did when he got up was go down and you had to shake the ashes out and get the furnace going again to warm up. But it was nice. There was a register in the living room that was almost directly above the furnace, and that's where that was the warmest place in the house. That, and then there was like a closet directly behind that on the other side of the wall. And sometimes in the mornings I'd get up and take my clothes in the closet and get dressed in the closet because it was nice and toasty in there. But then we got, I don't remember when we got a gas furnace downstairs. But sometimes the Wabash River would flood and the water would get in the basement a little bit. But I don't remember, I don't remember that ever happened the actual fire in the coal furnace was up above the floor, and it never got up to there, so we never had a problem keeping the house warm. And
did you ever take transportation on that thing called the Darwin Ferry?
I rode across it a few times. That was mostly for farming traffic, and I don't think we ever owned any land across the river. I don't think we ever farmed any over there, but different people down there did, and went on that. I don't
You
know.
finished up with high school, and then what happened?
Well, I started to school at Eastern, and I went there 2 years, and then I transferred and went to the University of Illinois and graduated from there in 1977. And
What was your major?
I got a degree in horticulture.
Oh,
I really didn't have a whole lot of big plans, and I just went and did what I liked doing, and so it worked out all right. My oldest brother went to the University of, well, they all did at one time or another. My oldest brother went, but he didn't finish. Ken and John graduated. Sue graduated from the University of Illinois. My brother Steve graduated from Eastern Illinois University, but then he ended up going to University of Illinois Medical School. And so that's University of Illinois. And then my youngest brother graduated from the University of Illinois. And then I did too after 2 years.
a lot of alumni there.
A lot of alumni there. We're pretty. Mom had gone to Eastern Illinois. At that time it was not a university, it was just a college, teacher's college. And she went there 2 years and got a teaching certificate. She wanted to go, she kind of thought she wanted to go and major in home economics. But that was a 4-year program at the time. And that was like right, the Depression was still going on, and so she just did the 2 years and started teaching. My dad didn't go to college. He in junior high, I think this is a story. In junior high, he got sick and missed a lot of school. And he had to take like 8th grade over again or something.
Quite a setback.
And so then the next year he started again. But his dad said, well, if you stay home and help me farm, I'll get you a car. So that's what Dad did. And yeah, he always farmed. Dad started out farming with, horse pulling whatever equipment and shucking corn by hand. And then, but it wasn't long after he started farming that they got a tractor and then started building up. But,
What was their farm products?
the what?
What did they have as farm produce? Corn, beans?
Yeah, corn, beans, wheat. We had mostly hogs. We had a few cattle sometimes, and we had a few sheep for a while. My brother Ken liked sheep, and we raised sheep when he was growing up, and he took sheep for 4-H animal. And then we had some cows, and my brother John took a cow to the 4-H fair, and he got pretty attached to the cow and was pretty upset when it sold. And my dad said, "We're never doing that again." So they didn't have they didn't show cattle anymore. We had a few now and then. We had a milk cow that I first remember, where we got our milk, and then we churned butter. But then we didn't keep a milk cow for long. I just barely remember that. Our neighbors had a milk cow for a long time after we did not, and they would give us butter that they had churned that they didn't use. And Mom always liked to use that when she baked cookies and cake, because it was
And you mentioned having some hogs. Did that also equate to a lot of ham in the deep freeze?
No, we never did. We never did butcher a hog. Well, now maybe once we did, but we never did butcher a hog. Maybe once, and I don't know why. We just loaded them all up and sold them all. I remember Dad taking hogs to Terre Haute to sell, and one day after he got done selling a load of hogs, he decided it was time to get a new car, and he went someplace, I forget where, in Terre Haute, and he had on his kind of dirty bib overalls, and he couldn't get anybody to wait on him. So he left and went down to another dealership, I forget which one, and bought a vehicle from them. And we usually, I don't remember what the first cars were. I know we had some old ones. But I know we had a 57 Chevy. And that was about the time my oldest brother started driving.
That was a classic.
We had, that was a popular car in the family. And then we had another one that was not nearly as juicy as that 57 Chevy was. And nobody cared for that one, not even Dad. But we had an old, like an Army surplus Jeep. I don't know where my dad got it. Like probably Korea vintage. I don't know where he got that.
My wife's father had one too.
And it was, the older kids drove that around probably more than Dad and Mom realized. They one time, I don't remember this, but I've heard the story a bunch of times. They drove up over a tree sapling, and they got so far, and it raised the wheels off of the ground, and they couldn't get off. And then another time, there was an old farm bridge. It wasn't much of a bridge, but they used it to get across the dredge ditch, which was running down there for the river floodwater to back up in. And one time they drove the Jeep over that, and they didn't go over that. They ran off the side and it went upside down. And I don't know how anybody didn't get hurt, but nobody got hurt. And we used that bridge, we used that Jeep some for a while, when at one point the bus would come to our house, go by the road in front of our house. And other times the route was different and we had to go out to the end of our road, about 2 miles, or mile and a half maybe, to catch the bus that stopped out there at the end of the road. And sometimes, so when we had the Jeep, we would drive that up to the end of the road and just leave it, because, you know, they had a car and they didn't need the Jeep. So the Jeep stayed at the end of the road, and then when we come home, we ride the Jeep home. And we did that with some other old cars that we had. We got my mom's dad's last car before he died, which was an old, like 53 Dodge Coronet, and it had the push button shift on it. And we drove that for a while and left it up there.
Do you think you'd be safe to leave a Jeep at the end of the road today?
Probably not with the key in it, but I don't know, probably not.
Don't you wish you had that 57 Chevrolet today?
Yeah, that was a pretty popular car, I guess.
Okay, let's go back. You finished, I guess you kind of jumped around, but you finished college, and what happened after that?
Well, I came back home and I worked for a few years over at Martinsville at the Dave Slater's mini farm market.
Yeah.
I did that for a few years. Then I got a job in the Clark County Courthouse at the county clerk's office where Les Littoral was. And I worked there, and that's where I met Joe. And then
Joe who?
and you know, met him, and we got married. So that was, I worked until before my first child was born, and then I quit and didn't go back. So.
And what was that young man's name?
Alan Schroeder. And he and my daughter Laura, of course we've always lived here, so they went to school here. Laura, well, I'll start with Alan, he's the oldest, went to Rose Hallman and got a degree in chemical engineering. And then he got a MBA at Emory University in Atlanta. When he was working down there, he went to school or he worked in Atlanta and then went to school and got an MBA. And then our daughter Laura went to Carbondale and got a bachelor's in social work. And that was like 2009, and the economy kind of took a little dive, and jobs were hard to come by anyway. So she went to grad school at in Chicago at, what was it called? Jane Addams School of Social Work through the University of Illinois.
It's on the south side.
She went there for a year, and then after that, she got a job, an entry-level job, doing that, and then she went to law school. 10 years later, she decided she wanted a change, and she went to law school and went to John Marshall, which was the same school Joe went to, but it was no longer John Marshall. It had changed and become part of the University of Illinois. And so she's...
My wife worked at John Marshall Law School for a while, the first time.
Yeah, Joe, that's where he went to law school, and Laura got a good scholarship at that school, so that's where she went. And she wanted to stay in Chicago anyway, so she's still there.
Is she still there now?
Yeah,
Active lawyer?
Yeah, she works at some kind of a insurance firm that works on, I don't know. insurance. But she likes it. It's a lot of research and writing. Writing. She's a good writer.
She permanent Chicago resident now, huh?
I think so. She likes it. We like going up there. We really enjoy going up to Chicago for a long weekend or just a weekend. It's easy. Sometimes we go up on the train,
Yeah.
and sometimes we drive. It's
Today, the safety factor to me is we lived there several years, and glad we're not there now.
Yeah. Well, we've never not felt safe. I guess we've just never gone to the parts of town where there's more problems.
Well, I did my MBA down at DePaul University, which was downtown. We lived up in Evanston, and I used to take the train home at 10 o'clock at night after school. I never felt uneasy, but I don't think I'd even take the train during the day today.
Laura does. She takes the blue line she lives out near Logan Square,
Yeah.
and she takes the blue line downtown to work. She doesn't seem to feel uneasy.
Good.
Yeah.
Where is Alan now?
He's in Ohio, near Toledo, in Maumee.
Okay.
He worked for a glass manufacturing company since he got out of school. He's not working there now, but he's looking for something else in probably that area. I don't know. He really likes Seattle. If he can't find something close to where he's at now, where he's already settled, he might look out there. He's got a real good friend from college out there, and Joe has a good friend that he knew from college that lives in Seattle. So we've been to Seattle. He's been to Seattle several times and likes it. And so I don't know. Hasn't made up his mind yet.
Did you go to Pike's Market?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we go there about every time we're there. It's a
Unique
neat place.
place.
Yeah, it's a neat place.
So now then, as an empty nester, you do have hobbies and things to keep you occupied?
I don't know what happens to the time. When it's nice weather, I really like being outside. And I'll find things to piddle around with outside anytime the weather's decent. I like being home, and I like being outside. Joe and I like playing golf. For the last, this will be 7 years now, I think, we've gone to Florida in the wintertime. And we've got a little place down there that's close to 2 or 3 golf courses we like to play. So we enjoy the weather down there in the wintertime.
Where is your place there?
It's Zephyr Hills. It's north of Lakeland, which is about halfway between Orlando and Tampa. And so it's pretty conveniently located to airports, and we like going over to Disney. We've got passes to go to Disney, and we'll just go over there for an afternoon and walk around and find something to eat before we come home. So we don't get over to the beach very much. I'm not much of a beach person. I mean, I like to look at it, but there's only so long that I want to stand there and look. So we don't go to the beach all that much, but the weather sure is nice.
Isn't it though? Are you down there during the main part of the winter?
Yeah. At first, when we went, we rented a place, and most rentals down there are for 3 or 4 months. And we started out. We found a place. One of my good friends from college, she and her husband retired and got a place down there in the wintertime. So she invited us down there where they stay, and we were there one year. And Joe said when we got home, it was in November, Joe said, boy, that's pretty nice down there. Maybe we could do that too. So our friends actually found us a place down there to rent. And so we were down there for 3 months, from January, February, and March. And then it was 3 months for 2 or 3 years. And then the last place we stayed at, they wanted to rent it for 4 months. So we thought, well, we could go down there in December, and if we wanted to, we'd come back for Christmas and then go back down. So that's what we did, and we were there for a couple of years, and then the owners said they wanted to sell. So we thought, well, we know what we got here, and so we bought it. And now we can come and go as we please. So we go down in November sometime.
Is it a freestanding building or in a condo?
Yeah, it's one of those it's a manufactured home. It's like
A duplex?
well, no, there's just one, but it's like a double wide
Okay.
type thing, and it's got a side shed, driveway,
It's a
porch.
elbow room.
Yeah, and it's got a lanai on the front that's just screened in, and oh, it's plenty big for us. It's 2-bedroom, 2-bath.
So do you think anytime you'd go down there to live year round?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
When the kids were little and we would go down there in the summertime for vacation, we'd go, Joe's mom lived there for a few years, and we would go down in the summertime to Disney and visit, and it was miserable down there. And
July and August are
it
terrible.
was awful down there. And when we were down there in the wintertime, it was so nice. I said, I don't want to come to Florida in the summer again. Not when, no. So I have been back in the summertime, but the winter is so much nicer down there. And I don't care if I go back in the summertime. So, and I like it up here in the summertime. Sometimes it gets a little hot and humid to work outside, but still I like working in the yard. And
Car's air conditioned, the house is air conditioned. so
yeah.
just go with
If it's too hot, I just go inside, or stay inside, or be outside in the early morning or late in the day.
With spending that several months in Florida, is Joe considered retired then?
No, he works from down there with with the internet technology. He can do everything except walk into the courtroom. And so he doesn't work as much, but he works every morning, doing what he does here. And his partner Paul White can. If he has to go to court again. But he's starting to slow down. He doesn't want to take any cases that are going to drag out for the next 2 or 3 years. And sometimes that happens. So he doesn't take those or refers them to somebody else. But he still likes going to the office every day.
Do you feel your daughter is kind of following the footsteps of Dad?
Oh, I don't know. She enjoys work, and I'm sure she's good at it, and I'm sure she's a hard worker. Doesn't.
Did she go that route? Do you think because of Dad?
Partly. Oh, I'm sure partly. But she's always been sort of. I can't think of the word. Concerned about people's situations and wants to be helpful. That's, I think, why she went into social work. She wanted to help people who needed help.
That's great.
And so this type of law I'm kind of surprised about, but not law in general, because I think that she went into that thinking she might do more advocacy work. But before she got out of school, one of her professors recommended her to one of her former students in a law firm there about this old student came and said, "Do you have anybody for this type of job?" And she gave him Laura's name. So Laura interviewed and got the job before she was out of school. And then when she graduated, the law firm says, "Well, you passed the bar, you've got a job here." So that's what she did. She liked it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you look back and say there's anything, gosh, I wish I had done differently?
There are probably more regrets of things I didn't do than regrets of things I did do. And there were some of those too, but no, nothing major. No, I think I have been one of the luckiest, most blessed people alive. I don't think I'd change anything because that might change something else. Yeah. So, no.
Having lived in Marshall basically your lifetime, what would you say about Marshall? Has it changed dramatically, you think, in those years?
No, I think people are still the same. A little bit more, well, not a little bit maybe, a lot more opinionated or vocal about their opinions. That's sort of sad that, but that's happening everywhere.
What about the physical buildings, town, and
That nothing much has changed. I've just noticed in the last few years how nice that Main Street, Archer Avenue is between Route 1 and over to what street is about 5th Street, 6th Street.
7th. Maybe 4th.
Yeah.
Probably.
The buildings downtown look really nice, and they're doing stuff downtown to some of those buildings I like. I'm glad to see. I remember when the, what was it called? The Marshall House there beside Mars's Furniture Store burned down. Joe and I hadn't been married very long, and Joe got a call in the middle of the night saying that building was on fire, and that was pretty close to Joe's office. And I remember he got up and went down there to watch for a while, but then it never did get over it. I don't know if it ever got into any of Mars's building or not.
I think they had only some smoke.
Yeah, maybe.
Smoke damage.
Yeah, but it damaged that wall between that building and Mars's building, which is the problem there now. But that building is gone. It's funny. I remember these other buildings that used to be, Dr. Mitchell had an office just west of the courthouse, but I think that building's gone.
It's gone long ago.
And of course, and I don't remember what was on the corner there because now there's that bank there.
There was a large 3-story building there,
Yeah.
and I remember this. Anderson's had a poultry store in the bottom, first floor.
Yeah, I don't remember that. And then there used to be an old folks home. I won't call it a nursing home. Along Route 1, I think, just south of the Casey's gas station, right in there somewhere. And then, because I know my mom had a cousin that lived there for a while, and Mom would go and visit, and she was just, it really broke her heart that her cousin was there. And as soon as the Burnsides opened up, the family got that cousin moved out to Burnsides. And then I don't think it was long after that place shut down when the Burnsides opened up, because it was just much nicer.
There used to be a retirement home on 6th Street where Kirchner's is now, right on that corner.
Okay, what was that called? Because maybe
Well, I remember it as the Dunkel home.
Okay, well that's.
And it was really just a home for people who lived in. There wasn't any medical care.
Yeah, right. Well, it was probably the name of the lady who had the house. It was Charity Downs.
Downs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well then,
And I don't
She
remember
got-
anything about that, but that was down in that area somewhere, I think east of Route 1.
times changed.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not real. Well, I was in junior high or high school before I really learned my way around Marshall. Because the only time I ever came to town was to the school, either to go to school or to go to sporting events, and to go to the grocery store. And I didn't know how to get around town until after, I was close to high school age probably.
There wasn't such a thing as GPS.
No, no. Well, we didn't come to town that often. There was a grocery store in West Union, and that's where we usually went. And so
Well, I remember as a youngster, to go to Terre Haute shopping was a big deal.
I remember that. About twice a year, we would go in the fall to get some school clothes and school shoes. And then we would go in I don't know when it was, January, February, for the white sale, where they would sell the bedding and bathroom linens and stuff like that. They had a big sale then, and Mom would go then. And of course, it was downtown. It was Roots and Mies was where we usually shopped.
And there was Penny's and Hers and all of the stores that
Yeah.
were busy as could be.
Yeah, I don't remember going to many of those. It was usually Mies and
Roots.
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 because you could walk right across the street from one to the other. But yeah, we didn't go to Terre Haute very often either. We didn't eat out very often either. We didn't go anyplace very often.
Do you remember I think it was a Kresge store that had the donut machine in the front door?
No, never saw that.
Okay, I'm a little older than
Yeah,
you are.
well, that and you lived in town.
I guess I've enjoyed talking to you so much, Alice, and I appreciate the history you've given. And so many of these experiences are common with others, but many of them are not. And that's what makes the Oral History Project, I find, so interesting. I'm going to ask you one final question, I guess, unless you had something else. One final question. If you were traveling, and let's say you went to Europe, let's say you were in England, someone asked you where you were from.
Yeah.
You said Marshall, Illinois, and they say, where's that? What's that town about? What would you tell them?
Well, first I'd start with the location, and I'd probably say it's south of Chicago about 5 hours, because I think most people have heard of Chicago, and Illinois. We've done some traveling abroad, and most people are more familiar with our geography than we are with theirs.
True.
And I just tell them it's a small town, and their idea of a small town might be 100,000. And then I would tell them how many that was, and and then they'd be pretty surprised at that probably, or a lot of them would. I'd say it's a pretty typical Midwestern town. As far as the employment, farming is a big, not as big as it used to be. Some of the businesses that were here, I suppose, we actually do have a car dealership and a Walmart. I'm sure they'd know what Walmart was. But a pretty, I don't want this to sound bad, but homogeneous community, or a bedroom community. I think some people think of Marshall as a bedroom community because a lot of people work in Terre Haute and a lot of people shop in Terre Haute. That's where most of the entertainment around here is. And so it's just a quiet little town. That's probably all I'd say.
And I'm glad to be here too. Well, thank you so much, Alice.
Sure.
I really appreciated it. And I think if you're not aware, these are kept, they're part of the library. The oral histories are available anywhere in the world because it's been will be digitized and it's on a file, and anyone from a computer can listen to it.
Oh,
So if you got someone in
Uh-oh.
Seattle or Florida or in Ohio,
uh-huh.
they can hear what you said.
Oh, they can hear it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just a transcript. Okay, well, that's all right.
Oh, that's why you're saying. But that's, I guess, the whole purpose of it. And as time goes on, it becomes a part of, local history.
Uh-huh. Well, I think I'm in a pretty unique spot because I had so many older brothers and a sister, and my parents were both older when I was born. So it's like I got a couple of extra generations before me that I remember or have heard about, and then from here on
I think your
forward.
mother was quite interested in history, wasn't she?
She, yeah, I think she enjoyed it. She was interested when she got older in genealogy because she knew a lot. She already knew a lot, and she came from a really close, big family. So,
I think that's why my aunt and she were such close friends,
Maybe.
because my aunt was big on genealogy too.
was your aunt in DAR?
No.
That's kind of how Mom got started. Well, actually, when I was in high school, there was our one assignment, and I forget what class, was our genealogy. So I went home and started asking Mom about all this. Well, she knew a lot of stuff, but then she kind of started thinking about, well, who knows something else that I don't know, and that's kind of how she got started. And then she had a friend who was in DAR, who maybe was a distant relative and in DAR. And so this person told Mom, well, you could be in DAR and, you could learn all this stuff. So Mom did that and found out more. So
That's the amazing thing about genealogy. You look under one rock and you find this, and it just goes on and on, and one thing leads to another.
I think she got back as far as Germany. She didn't,
Ooh.
people, of course, that wasn't all that far back for her dad's family came in the 1860s, I think. But her mom's family was Irish, and they came a little before that, I think. And they found out how far back to get to Ireland.
Did your Irish family live north of town?
No, they were from Martinsville too.
Oh, Martinsville, okay. My great-great-grandfather came from Donegal, Ireland, and he founded Castle Finn and helped with most of the Irish coming in, and they all seem to be up in the north part, north of town.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I don't know. Well, that's a whole nother story about my grandmother's family, because that was kind of a sad story. The lady that came from there was a man and woman with a family that wanted to come to the United States. The husband died, but the mom thought, well, let's go ahead and come, and she died on the boat.
Gosh.
And then when the kids got here, there were like 3 boys. And my ancestor was the youngest, and he didn't get along with his older brothers, and he left. He took off. So, and settled here, and actually up around Westfield, I guess. And so we don't know anything about the rest of that family, because he didn't.
But I've often thought, boy, those people had to be hardy on that boat, and then just nothing after they got here.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they even
I don't
survived.
know how they did it, and I can't imagine anything being so sad as your mom dying and being buried at sea.
And that was more common than I think we realized.
Oh,
too.
I'm sure it happened more than once.
Well, thanks again,
Okay.
Alan.